So welcome back to another episode of the CEO of Fucking Everything, where myself and Simon Wilkes, who is our designated CEO of Everything, speak with someone who's come through SIP Media Solutions, worked at Sports News Blitz, maybe travel, maybe music, and really made a bit of a difference within our foundation and has now moved on to their own work. And Sam Condy, the brilliant Sam Condy, is here with us today to kind of talk through his journey. So Sam, you started with us on an internship. You then moved on to being a freelance writer. And from what I've heard now, you're bordering on a full-time job within the industry, which is absolutely exceptional and literally the pathway we've made to try and get people on. So firstly, congratulations. That's absolutely brilliant. Well done. And secondly, talk to us, Sam. How did you first get into SIP? How did you first speak with Simon? What did that initial breakthrough look like for you?
Yeah, so I think I was doing some boxing writing for some other people originally, and I sort of had a chat with myself and realized that I was boxing myself in too much. If I wanted to make it in the industry or a similar industry, you've got to have more than one skill set. And I've got my aunt knows Simon, so passed on the contact. And I started speaking to Simon and he said, well, yeah, what do you want to write about? And I said, football, golf, Scottish football. And he said, well, that sounds fantastic, but we'll miss the Scottish football. So I started doing some sort of golf tips, I think, originally, and a tennis piece maybe. And then we got into American football, which I knew nothing about. So that was fantastic, learning about the sport. And learning about all the SEO and working with, content management systems as well, which I hadn't really done before. And over time, it progressed. And then we started up a travel news website as a new sort of avenue. And I was working on that with Simon as well. And that's just grown and grown. It's been great.
That's great. And obviously you mentioned at the start that you kind of, I don't know if you intended the pun of boxing yourself in, but you made it anyway. And I feel like from that point, just from what me and you have done together, I know you've very much expanded from just boxing writing, because we'll look at obviously the MMA stuff that you've done for us, speaking to the Montegrifo brothers, which was pretty massive for you to do. And you conducted that interview all by yourself, and you sort of took the leap from writing into video, which is something you've very much taken in your stride and have still done. How was that sort of transition? If you came into this with just boxing writing and that's what you wanted to do and thought, I need to expand my writing, and then wow, you're interviewing two pretty successful MMA fighters. How did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been the best bit is learning all these new skills, and the trickiest bit as well. I mean, I'm not a natural in front of the camera. So it takes work, but I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? And that's been fantastic, improving my skill set, and it's given me so much confidence. I feel like going into new things now, I've got confidence that even if I'm not an expert yet, I can learn and I can grow because of the learning that I've done at SIP, doing all the different things that I've done.
Yeah, Simon, I'll fling this over to you now quickly, because that's something that crops up every time we do one of these podcasts, and that is about work ethic and being able to learn and think on your feet and sort of throw yourself into everything, even if you don't know it. So how has that been for you, seeing Sam go from someone who just wanted to do boxing writing, and obviously with your help as well, is now very good at writing about pretty much any sport you chuck at it?
Yeah, I think we always say, Matt, as co-founders, we're looking for people when we run these placements that have got certain traits, and those traits really are a good positive attitude, a good work ethic, and a willingness to learn. As you've mentioned many times, Matt, I graduated in 1920, so I've been in sports journalism for over 100 years, something like that anyway. So I've just seen a lot since the internet was born, since cars were invented. Yeah, I'm just getting all of the gags out, Matt. But seriously, we've got a really clear ethos and culture, which is on our website. It's on the SIP Media website, and that was something that I spent like 3 months kind of writing it, and then Matt, we made sure we were aligned with that. This is the culture we want to create. We want to create an environment where people can come and learn, make mistakes, and fill the gaps that they're not learning at university. And that's not kicking universities. At university, you learn the theory, you learn the morals and how important journalism is. But what they're not learning is the practical skills that they need. And Sam has just been. I just want to take him back when I said you can forget Scottish football. There was a reason for that. He wanted to write about Hibernian and Rangers and Celtic would be the only teams that I'm interested in, because we're interested in Google and Google search volumes. That's what we teach you. We teach you that you can come to me and you can say, I want to write about breakdancing, but I would then think about what's the search volume for that. So that's a reference to you, Matt. But that's my role, is to kind of shape and build the placement around the individual. Now, I knew Sam loved his golf and he loved his tennis and his betting. So straight away, I was kind of like, I'll say to anyone, you need to understand betting. If you want a career in sports journalism, you have to understand betting. You don't have to bet. You don't have to be a bettor, but you have to understand betting, how to take odds and analyze them and create content, because sports, bookmakers fund most of sports journalism, especially right here, right now, when page view revenues are disappearing because of everyone using ChatGPT and AI. Betting is so important. So I really sort of lent into Sam and sort of said, I had a requirement on Sports News Blitz that I needed an NFL betting writer that was going to be able to do weekly previews leading up to the Super Bowl. So with Sam being Scottish and knowing rugby, but yeah, NFL is just rugby with helmets and shoulder pads. That's what it is. It's the same game with lots of more stoppages and cheerleaders. So I knew he would understand it. And I did. I mean, I kind of went over and above with Sam, kind of went up to Glasgow. We had a weekend together, didn't we, Sam? And spent all Sunday in walkabout watching NFL games and just sort of learning the game. And then we went to Carlisle and mapped out a plan for Travel News Blitz, because Sam had been interrailing. So if you do a placement with us, whoever it is, Matt, I feel like we're both aligned. We get to know the individual, and build the placement around that individual. What do you like? What are your passions? But then we help people, whether it's students or graduates, promote themselves, build their profile on LinkedIn of all places, really showcase LinkedIn. And that's what Sam's done. He was the Travel News Blitz content editor, and now he's got a full-time job for a travel company.
No, and that's spot on. So Sam, I'd like to kind of touch on that with the transition from sport over to travel. Obviously, it's something you're very keen on with the interrailing. Could you talk to us a bit more about that? First off, just on a personal note, how was interrailing? Because that sounds brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was great. Maybe what would it have been about a year and a half ago, me and one of my best mates just decided, we need to do something. We never got a lad's holiday due to COVID, so it was we'd never really been abroad anywhere, without our parents, and we were like, we need to get something done. What can we do? And we thought, well, let's try see as much as we can see, because I think that's one of the greatest things you can do is go and experience different places and adventures, I suppose. So we took sort of 3 weeks and we traveled around the sort of Balkan countries in Europe, Slovenia, Poland, etc. It was really good.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. And what was it like going from learning to be a writer, I suppose, under Simon's wing a little bit, to then you're a content editor of a page about a subject you're really big on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was another learning step as well. But I think having worked with Simon and on the sending articles in, sports articles in, is you get so much feedback that you are almost, while you're not learning to be an editor, you are learning what he's looking for. So you're starting to almost edit your own articles as you're writing them to Simon, what Simon's after, because of all the feedback he's given you. So it made that step a lot easier.
One thing I was just going to say, Matt, as well, the travel brand that we've got, it's all interconnected, but it's also connected to sport. We connect our brands. So, on Music News Blitz, we talk about music in Film News Blitz and vice versa. We talk about those soundtracks. So Sports News Blitz, on which Sam was a writer, a golf betting writer, NFL, he would do the betting tips for Sports News Blitz. But then if we know that the Super Bowl is going to be held at New Orleans, he would then say, here are 7 things to do in New Orleans if you're going to watch the Super Bowl. So then we would then cross promote those 2 articles written by Sam within each other. So that's backlinking, that's SEO, that's cross promotional. Google loves that. It loves it if you have that, because it kind of shows that you know what you're doing. And we did it for golf as well, didn't we, Sam? We did a whole range of like golf betting tips, and then things to do in Augusta if you're going to watch the Masters.
Oh, smashing stuff. Yeah, we do. Cross-pollinating across different platforms, different websites is pretty perfect. And Sam, for you especially, when you get to do travel and sport, 2 things you're really big on, winner. Going backwards a little bit to something that Simon alluded to, which was about universities and how they are great, but we try and fill the gaps. Is there anywhere specifically that you feel as though an internship with SIP and working with Simon has helped fill those gaps for you?
Yeah, everything digital, I would say. I think you learn how to write, but that's really it. I thought it's still very set in teaching you to be a print journalist, which nowadays is not the case at all. I don't think there's any journalist in the world that just does print media, really. So I think that's the biggest thing. You're not going to have an easy transition into the industry if you don't know how to work digital media, and you don't know how to work in a content management system and optimize articles for Google. And all of that is the key to what how Sports News Blitz and SIP Media are trying to operate their websites.
No, it's absolutely spot on, and that's something that, again, I've made this point already, but one thing that seems to be brought up pretty much every podcast we do is things like SEO, which people like. Well, on a personal note, before I'd worked with Simon on a placement, I'd never heard of SEO, which as someone doing a journalism degree isn't great. But it's the gaps that you have to fill with these internships, with placements, and with work experience. So it's good that there is some.
It's so important as well, Matt, going back to, obviously you're responsible for the video output that we do, but it's the same principle, whether you're writing an article or doing a video for YouTube. It's the same principle. It's talking. You've got to write the content. The way that we're going as a business is that we're leaning into using people. We want to use humans. We want them to tell us why they love their team, why they love their sport, why they enjoyed going to Venice, why that, really personal interaction and content that AI can't do. The whole publishing industry, AI is like ravaging around it because publishers are sacking journalists and they're trying to see if they can get AI to replace them. We're sort of like swimming against the tide and going, no, we'll use AI, but we'll use the tools to make our jobs quicker and faster. But Matt, when you think about the learning curve that you've gone on the video side of things, it's how to write your headlines, how to put the keywords in the headlines, writing really full descriptions. So we create the content, which is done by the placement students around subjects that they love. Then we teach you how are you going to position that content so that an algorithm, whether it be Google, ChatGPT, YouTube, kind of like scans the page. Now, we really do go to the nth level. Like if there's someone that's really hungry to learn, then I show them like the really complicated technical stuff, which is basically when you look at the page source, which I always equate it as an analogy as to when Neo sees the Matrix. He's running around in this world and then all of a sudden he sees what the Matrix sees. He sees the code and he understands it. It's my greatest analogy, because I'm almost like, that is a brilliant article now. It's 1,000 words. It's got all of these things. It's got videos in it. Now let's look at how Google sees it. And you just look at the source code and you'll see all the sort of coding around it. And I feel like it's kind of like brilliant to be able to show people that, because you would never learn that at university.
No, you're spot on. And I suppose that's the importance of doing placements and the importance of doing internships, isn't it? Sam, kind of nearing the end now, and just want to know, so you've had your journey with SIP so far. You've got plans on the horizon. What's next for you going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm taking all the skills that I learned at SIP, working with alongside social media teams and learning how the social media teams operating, working with Google and SEO, improving my SEO skills and continuing to improve my writing skills. And I think most importantly as well, working as part of a team towards a goal. I think that's super important. And if you can show that you're doing that and you understand how to work with people, it's going to make your next steps much easier. So now I am moving into a marketing role up in the Highlands of Scotland, up in the sticks, doing hopefully working for a travel company, a tourism company that do adventure cruises in the Highlands.
Very exciting stuff.
I just wanted to say as well, Matt, like I'm in the process now of like talking to the managing director of that company who sent me, he's requested a reference. I say to anyone that does a placement with me, we're going to give you a lot of our time. You give me your time. We'll teach you and make you a more rounded digital journalist. But then the end process, when you graduate and start looking for work, you put me down as a reference. Now, I've been in the industry a long time, so as a referee, I think that has quite value. So the MD has kind of asked me for a reference from Sam, and we've just arranged that we're going to do a phone call. So that's as part of the placement, I'm here. And the good thing is, when I have that phone call, I know Sam, I know him inside out. We've had a relationship, we know each other, I know what makes him tick. But then I've also kind of like helped to shape him and fill his gaps. So that phone call will be, really, really good and exciting for me to be able to have that opportunity to tell this person that's going to give Sam a job how amazing he is.
What a great thing to hear, Sam. I bet that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing that you've put down a referee and you've been, it's going to be glistening, and that's because of the work you've done. So I think from both myself and Simon, from the work you've done on the video team, the work you've done on the writing team, it's a massive well done, and it's a very much a best of luck with your steps going forward. So with that note, bit of a closing statement, Sam, is there any nugget of advice or information you'd like to pass on to someone who may be interested in doing an internship?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I could say is, go for it and be open-minded. Don't box yourself in as I had done, and then realize I had to avoid and had to branch out. Just go in open-minded, and everything Simon suggests, just say yes, because you'll learn so much, because he knows what he's talking about. And if he's asking you to do something you're not comfortable with, there's a reason behind why he's asking you to do it. So
great stuff. And Simon, anything to add before we say goodbye?
Yeah, the nugget is get in touch. Go onto the SIP Media Solutions site. There's a contact form. Just start your journey with us. That journey always begins. It begins with the individual. Like it begins with getting to know each individual. We do have teams. We have within the site we have teams, but I manage teams for clients as well as for SIP Media. So SIP Media is the training platform. That's what we are. We don't shy away from that. We're here to sort of help bridge the gap between what university students are when they're coming out into industry. They're doing well and they're graduating and they're getting first, and then they can't get those jobs. So we're here to sort of like help bridge that gap.
Fantastic stuff. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Sam, thank you very much, and very much best of luck going forward. You'll have to keep in touch and not be a stranger with us both. Simon, thanks again for all your time. And I think that rounds us off quite nicely. So, gentlemen, all the best.
Right, back at you, Matt. See you later, guys.
yes, thank you.